The FUBU Radio. Come on. Come on. Come on. Come on. Come on. Come on.
Hey, welcome back to another episode of Keeyzo's Corner. I got some special guests in the building today. I got Dr. Quash, Executive Director over at CUNY, in charge of the BMI program. And I also have, I told you, Dr. Quash, I was going to say this, but I also have the most respected man in the music business, DJ Ralph McDaniels, my big bro. You know, I know when we sat down and talked about doing this interview, I was like, yo, we got to knock this out, you know. And I know, Ralph, just to say a couple things about you from me, you helped us out in a major way. And it'll never be forgotten. You was the first one to put us out there in a major way. And your show, obviously, Video Music Box, was, a bloodline to the music industry back then. It still is. So we were able to utilize your platform and kind of blow up from there, But over the years, man, you've been a great friend, a confidant. Make sure I try to be wherever you're at and wherever you're getting honored, or just to pay my homage to you. So I really respect that and respect you in that manner. So, but I'm glad to sit down and talk about this scholarship thing you got going on. I'm not going to say too much. I'm gonna let you guys, get into it and break it down. So, Dr. Quash, I'll give you the mic first.
Thank you so much, and such an honor to be here with both of you as well, Dr. Perrin, because you're quite an amazing person too, and with the incredible Ralph McDaniels. Here at CUNY, the Black Male Initiative Program, we are in our 20th year, and over the past 20 years, we have had our several efforts to try to make sure that the young men in the communities in New York City are uplifted and are resourced and are supported. But one of the ways we do that is to really kind of highlight and uplift some of the individuals that have made tremendous, amazing contributions, not just to New York, not just to New York State, but to the world, really. And Brother McDaniels is one of those examples. We're trying our best to highlight not just his impact to so many people here in New York, but also through scholarship, we're hoping to highlight and really lift up some individuals, some young men who perhaps have maybe similar backgrounds, or perhaps have similar aspirations professionally, or have also been impacted by the work of Video Music Box and just the concept of the entrepreneurial spirit that embraces. Because you can have a young man who may not have maybe the communication skills, but they're in college to try to gain some of those skills, or to learn some of the technical skills, or to even learn the entrepreneurial and business spirit, how to do certain things. Because I think all of us know some of the best business-minded people are folk who didn't really go to college or go to school, but they're sharp and their minds are really, really bright, right? I mean, there's so many examples, particularly in hip hop, of that kind of thing. I'm thinking of like Jay-Z just as the top of my mind, but there's a lot of folk who have some amazing skills when it comes to business. Dr. Perrin, you won when it comes to business, when it comes to branding themselves, when it also comes to perhaps lifting up their community, like leaders. Like there's a whole lot of folk from the civil rights movement didn't all go to college, but they had a voice and they had a message and they had a determination to make their community better. And so this is what we're hoping to do with this particular scholarship in honor of Ralph McDaniels, because we're trying to find that young person who has that vision, who has that sort of mindset, and embraces that spirit. And I think it's so important for us to kind of do this kind of work while people are here with us, you know what I mean? Because a lot of times we kind of wait until someone's gone before we kind of make a show that their impact on society and impact on the lives of the communities. Um, but while we we have an opportunity to here at BMI we have an opportunity to share with some of our students the impact stories, the impact the communities, because a lot of them probably were not around necessarily when these legacies began, but they can certainly research and see the impact on today's music industry. So we really want to be able to highlight some of the young people who are doing some of this great work by rewarding them with a scholarship. And so we are here at CUNY BMI are doing that work this year, well, academic year 2025-26, this academic year. So in the spring semester, which is next year, we'll be able to award scholarships to those individuals who have embraced, and represented what I consider the spirit of Ralph McDaniels in terms of the impact. Because selfishly, I'm a grew up in Queens, grew up in Jamaica, Queens, like a LL kind of neighborhood, and not really too far from him. And grew up watching Video Music Box. I actually am also a musician. I'm a singer, jazz performer, and I understand. And I actually perform with Roy Ayers as well a few times, and so I understand the fusion of hip hop and jazz and that kind of thing. And I if it were not for the program, really the exposure to so many things that we have in our culture would not be known. I actually also teach a course in hip hop, and there's some of the very early videos that we watch are actually videos of video music back, as well as the early the sort of the four pillars of hip hop and that kind of thing. But we also examine the impact that shows at that time had. I think all of us can remember time before we had cell phones, before we had computers, before we had laptops. We didn't have anything but channel 2, 5, 11, and 9. So that's what we had, and that's exactly how we grew up, and yet we grew up happy, I think. But today it's a different world, but we can't forget from where we came from, and so that's what we're really trying to do with the BMI program, really instituting this scholarship, and we're really honored, Brother McDaniels, to be the first named scholarship that we have in our 20-year history.
Well, I'm honored, Dr. Quash, and I didn't even know we were the first. I thought somebody else was been doing. I thought there was a long line
Nah.
of others. I'm honored to be the first to have his name on his scholarship, and I think it's important, especially for the young black men. And we know this from our history of just growing up, that we just need a little hand every once in a while to guide somebody in the right direction. Because I say everybody has it. It's just sometimes they don't know they have it, and then put them in a situation where they can strive and be better, be the best version of themselves, because it's easy to be the worst version of yourself. We see that, on a regular basis. But when somebody puts their hand out in a way that, they feel they can relate, when they see you walk into the door, Dr. Quash, or they see Dr. Perron come into the room, it's something that is we can't put a finger on that. It's we relate to that person. Our souls connect, and that's what this is all about. I remember when I got my associate's degree at LaGuardia Community College, and when I walked in, and I remember seeing the first black professor that I had. And, in high school, I didn't have it. I went to basically an all white school because I played football. And, and I saw a black professor, and I was like, oh, wow, you know, and so that meant a lot to me, just because, I felt like maybe they had the same experiences that I had. And so, yeah, and we move forward, Keith and I have been, in these schools for years, and talking to young people, and here it is now. I'm doing it, at another level, Dr. Quash. Thank you for that. And I think that there's going to be some great impact on the community, as well as in the CUNY system for this right here.
Yeah, thank you for that. For you partnering with us. It really is an honor. And yes, you are our first. I think Dr. Keith Perrin will be the next one, but I won't say that yet.
Yeah.
But we really do appreciate the partnership, because we have now BMI has a little over 8,000 students, but CUNY itself is about 225,000 students, and they'll all live in New York City, and so it's not easy to kind of get around and talk to so many people. So we try to use different platforms to do that, but I really do appreciate you supporting us and coming out to our conference a few weeks ago at Medgar Evers College. I really appreciated that. That was a very powerful day for us. But we're really trying to keep that momentum going, keep that. So what we do is, like, for instance, one of the events that you did with us at BMCC, we tried to duplicate that and share that video to other campuses. We have 26 campuses, so it's a lot to maneuver around. But we're really trying to reach as many young people as you mentioned, how you and Dr. Perrin go to classrooms and speak to people. And it's really important, but it's a lot. It's a lot to absorb. I know when
Yeah.
even when I'm teaching, and I only have 25, 30 students in the classroom, but you absorb the energies from just those students who are in front of you, and then those stories, and then you have an obligation to them going forward, like helping them build up community and seeing them, almost like mentoring them, even though I'm the professor, but mentoring them in a way that they actually can move, so that they can help someone, in their generation following them, and inspire them as well. So thank you again for all that great work that you're doing.
So, I'm just curious. Is there any restrictions? Like, how does like one, apply, and what can they use the money for?
Yeah, I was getting ready to say the same
Sorry,
thing.
Keith, I'm taking on that. Well,
Yeah,
that's
well,
what I do too, right? I'm sorry.
yeah,
Just take over the interview, Ralph. Just take over.
well, the way scholarships work with with the CUNY, they are part of what's called a financial aid package. So the scholarships, just like a student may get a TAP grant or a Pell Grant or some other award, it goes into their financial aid package, which is like an online system that's applied to their tuition, but the scholarship itself is on top of that. So it's like they may get Pell and TAP, and most students at CUNY do. So they have their tuition covered, but then the scholarship goes on top, and then it gets sent to them as a check, basically. Or they could use it, keep it as a credit, but most of the time students just have it sent as a check to them. So there's no restrictions on what they do with it. It's totally up to them.
Awesome.
Right.
And anyone can apply that, I guess, in the CUNY system, or
Well, the way we anticipate this, and this is something that Brother Ron West and I had discussed, we really are looking for those students who perhaps have committed to certain majors and or certain types of community type organization, or community work rather, working in the community with certain CBOs, or with that whatever other kind of organizations that they work with. Some of them are like working with My Brother's Keeper programs or whatever, and then they demonstrate some of the spirit of that entrepreneurial spirit that we hope to build around the Ralph McDaniels Scholarship. So it's not necessarily like anyone and everyone would apply for it through a portal, because there is rather at each campus a portal of hundreds of scholarships that students can apply for. But there's no like restriction, meaning if you apply for something, I could apply for the Abraham Yankovitz scholarship, and obviously I would get that, but I wouldn't necessarily want that to operate this way. So this is going to be more handled at the campus level, where the directors would nominate someone in their program that exemplifies the spirit of our programming, and then we would then look at the submit the give them an application. We actually going to share that with Brother Ralph, and then we would go through who those finalists are, and then generally the way scholarships work, we have an event around it. So there's in fact, there's one scholarship event happening on Thursday of this week for a long-standing scholarship at the university, but most scholarships happen in the spring because that's when the year is ended, and the GPAs, all the if they didn't they finished their coursework and all that stuff, so we kind of wait till then. But there's usually an event that's being held. It's usually like a luncheon, and then the person who receives the award, or the persons are there, their families are there, the faculty and staff who supported them are there. It's usually a pretty nice event. There's one of the long-standing scholarships at CUNY is for medical programming, and so the recipients are only like 10 or 12 of them, but it's a really large event, and there's a whole advisory board that decides on who those recipients are, because they're rather prestigious awards, the Salk Scholars they're called. And so what we're trying to do is build that to that level of prestige. So we're going to have a real great celebration around it, so that their families and supporters can also come and share in that celebration.
Awesome. I was a communications major. No, when I was at LaGuardia, I was just a general studies major. I didn't know what I wanted to do because I was just getting into college. And then when I graduated from LaGuardia, I went to New York Tech in Westbury as a communications major in journalism. And that's where, I started the idea of doing what I do currently, which normally doesn't happen. You go to school and you take a class and you graduate and you don't work in the field that you studied in. But I was proud of the fact that I got a job,
Yeah,
in
yeah.
TV, like coming out of college, and stuck with it, and then started my own TV show and media and movies that I've produced, and music videos, and worked with some amazing hip hop artists over the years, and it's only because I think that I kept it present. I kept it in today. Because sometimes we can get, especially in the times when we grew up in the 80s and the 90s, you could get distracted. But we kept it, and we stood firm on what we were doing. We had a good time. Don't get me wrong, but we stayed with what the brand was, and I think that that's what we offer. I mean, Keith is a perfect example of that, myself, as well as just sticking to the plan, and not going off course. I hope that the scholarship can give that to some of the young people that get the award. Don't take the $1,000 and go to the party.
Right.
Get a laptop, get something that you could use.
And further yourself, I want to say this, as I know back in the days when I was working in management housing, and my boss had promoted me, and he told me, he said, I'm giving you this position because I believe in you, and if you ever have the chance, never hesitate to reach back and pull another black man up the ladder. I notice you do that a lot, effortlessly. You've been doing it. You weren't always about the main artists. You were about the underground artists. You were about the artists that were coming up. You were about the artists that were trying to get on. You always showed love to everybody across the board. And that's why I say you're the most respected man in the music industry, because I don't know anybody that doesn't like you. You could probably walk everywhere on this God green earth, and people will respect you and not bother you or not mess with you. But where do you get that from? Where do you get that willpower to just to give back to everybody?
I think there was a man named Jim Bowman that I met when I first got into when I graduated from school, and he gave me a job, and he said to me, he called me Mac. You know, he was it's funny because we're taping this on Veterans Day. He was a veteran, and he was so and he would he treated us like we were his his soldiers and stuff. And but he was hard on us, and but he said, I'm gonna give you an opportunity, and don't blow it,
Right.
take advantage of it, don't blow it. And I think that was the thing that made me who I was, because I wanted to give somebody an opportunity, So if I meet a kid in Bed-Stuy or in the South Bronx or in South Jamaica, Queens, wherever, you know, I see something in them that's from me. I see it,
Hmm.
and all you need is to just give them the right direction, and hopefully, that is enough to get them, to where they need to go. And there's levels to it, that. Um,
Yeah.
when I
Because
s- when I
certain people in your position, they
right,
don't
they don't do
they
that.
don't think they don't do that. And like you said, all the person needs is the opportunity, but sometimes you have these gatekeepers who, they get a little position, a little power, then it's all about them or what somebody could do for them. And I've never saw that in you. I've always saw you reaching back and just trying to pull as many people you can up the ladder. And I applaud you for that, man, because
Yeah.
it's not an easy job. It's definitely not an
It only
easy
takes
job.
a second. It only takes a second for you to
Mhm.
change somebody's life. A second,
Right.
really. You
Yeah.
know?
And I get that a lot too because I'm more of the people person that they say in the crew. And I would always give people 5 minutes, no matter what they were asking. I'm like, listen, I don't have time to sit down and coach you, but I'm gonna give you some of these gems. And I think by me doing that over the years and just being, transparent with people, it got me a long way because they respect me in on a whole different level just by giving them that 5 minutes. So that's why I said, even with you, you have the respect of the whole industry. Like, nobody's messing with Ralph McDaniels. If anybody do anything to Ralph McDaniels, everybody's coming out. And so,
Thank you.
so everybody's coming out. So, but I appreciate, just you being you, man, and giving these people the opportunities because you gave us an opportunity as well, and you didn't have to. I was telling Dr. Quash when we got on that I used to work with your mother, and that's how our relationship blossomed from there. But you didn't have to do it. Your mother asked you to do it, but you could have been like, "All right, ma," and then just drag it along. But you say, "You know what? Let me do this," and it wound up changing our lives forever. So I'll always be your number one fan, man. I'm telling you. So thank you for that.
Thank you, man, and I appreciate it. And of course, I love you guys, and just the way you kept going and keep and continue to keep on doing it, and that's the perfect example of don't blow it.
Yeah. Hmm.
Don't blow it. Because we cheering for you all the way. We cheering for you all the way, and it's not hard. If you focus and it's work. You put in a lot of work, Keith.
Yeah.
I see you. But you got to do the work, and that's all right. But it'll pay off.
Yeah. I think that's what today's generation is lacking. Like everybody wants the microwavable stuff and the quick way to do it. And, rather than get people to really listen to their albums, they'll go get bots. So it's just everybody wants the shortcut. And, I know even for me and building FUBU Radio here, I always tell my team, I'm like, we've built FUBU, yeah, and that's a standalone business. This is a totally different business. This is radio. This is not clothing. So yes, I put in the work at FUBU and got the name to be, a household name, but nobody knows FUBU Radio. So we have to do the same thing over here. We just can't assume that we're gonna ride off of this wave over here because it's not gonna happen. And people saw that. when, deals weren't getting made, we weren't being invited to certain, music conferences or what have you. And I'm like, yo, we're not doing enough work. We have to do
Mm.
more work. And the more work we do, the more recognized we'll be and the better off we'll be. But you can't just assume that this work is you know gonna flow over to this, and then you're gonna be super successful. It doesn't work like that.
Yes. Yeah.
I think there's a couple of modern day examples. Those I appreciate you both for sharing that because that it's not my world really, but on the music side, I've always worked with artists as a vocal instructor and piano teacher, and I have a few artists actually who have gone on to do some great things that I coached. But you're right, there is the most recent generation seems to want things so quickly and without doing the hard stuff. Like I have one person who goes currently to Brother McDaniel's old school. Um, wants to like have hits and have all like EPs and stuff and never took a singing lesson, never really sang at all, and I'm going through the lessons like, oh man, this is gonna be a long process, but we they look at like the results of something like a television show where you just audition and boom, next thing you know, you're the star.
Yeah,
And that's a sort of a shortcut way, and it's not long lasting. There's a few exceptions, but the hundreds and hundreds of thousands of those who don't go anywhere, from those shows or from something online or something, it's a real wake up call to
yeah.
to be, to be Alicia Keys or John Legend or whoever. You got to put in some time, but
And
you got to put
and
in some time.
everybody ain't gonna make it.
That's right. To learn how to play, to learn how to produce, learn how to write, learn.
Yeah,
Obviously, the singing is a talent, but there's a lot of stuff that goes on behind the scenes that a lot of people don't know. It takes a lot to really succeed, regardless of the industry or what it is you're doing. It takes a lot of work, and that's something that I think is missing a lot of times with um, education. We used to have programs in school. I went to school, like I said, I grew up South Jamaica. I went to school in South Jamaica and grew up in Rochdale Village. And when I was in school, we had classes. You had to sit before school, you're taking music classes. After school, you're taking music classes. All during school, you classes, you learn and learn and learn. And then years and years and years of work. And then you can finally say, okay, I'm at a comfortable level. But now, a lot of young people just want to kind of like shoot right to the top
Yeah.
without climbing the ladder. It's a tough road.
It's different, it's different now, and that's okay. And if that happens for you, that's great, but um, you know, I come up in a time we had multiple forms of income. Even now, like I might be known as a journalist or air personality, but I have three or four other things that I'm doing that continue to pay the bills, you know, and um and you have to do that. You have to do that. You have to do that work. Um and you have to be around people that do it so you can see how it's done. And I think that that's what this scholarship um will allow.
Yeah.
I'd love to be able to take somebody. Let's go to FUBU Radio. Let's see how Keith does what he does. Let's go to the Video Music Box. So you can see how TV production is done. Or a podcast is made, or a studio and they're making beats, and all of these type of things that most people haven't seen with their own eyes, somebody who's a professional doing that, somebody who's successful. Let's go to see, let's go watch Charlemagne do his show, like that kind of thing is important. So that you understand. Because it wasn't until I saw it with my own eyes, you know, I watched TV for my whole life. And then I got an internship at a TV station and I went there, and now I'm actually there watching the behind the scenes of what I've been watching on TV my whole life. And I said, "Oh, this is how it works. Oh,
Mhm.
okay." So
Yeah.
yeah, so that's the type of thing. Like we say back in the day, show and prove. That is what helps you bring it into reality. Now I understand. There's 30 people back here working. I'm just seeing the end result when I'm watching
Yeah.
TV.
Yeah. That's how I felt. That's how I felt like when I was on music videos. I didn't did so many music videos. I can't even name them all. I can't even remember them all. But what I loved about being on set, even more than giving out the clothes, was how production worked.
Hmm.
The gaffers, the DP, the AP. You're
Hmm.
looking at the director like he's the person that's running everything. And no, it's this person, it's the DP that's running it. It's, the AP is directed it really. And,
Hmm.
you have all this other stuff going on. Um, so you get to see how the art department will walk in and change a plain room into a jungle, and it was just amazing to me. And I always loved it. And the thing about that, they fed you craft food, and everybody was always on time. It also set a mindset with me because I was like, they say they're gonna be here at 6 o'clock in the morning. Everybody is here 6 o'clock in the morning. It's not 80% of the people are here. Everybody is here. So I always looked at it and realized how serious they take their job because what they do behind the scenes is how great it looks to you and on the screen, So
Yeah,
that's where I got my bug from. I learned the wide shot, the mid shot, the close up, and
yeah,
all of that stuff just watching these guys.
yeah, yeah. Well, hopefully we'll be able to. In fact, not even hopefully, we will be able to give some of the students that experience and light that thing in them because everybody wants to shine. I got that much I realized from
Yeah.
back in the days till now. That's the one thing that's consistent is some people nowadays they wanted to get it faster, but they still want the same thing that we wanted back in days. We did. It took us a little longer to get it. Now it comes for some people it comes a little faster, but it's always I just want to shine, and so we just want to make sure that the next person gets the opportunity and can and their families get a little help to get them to that point.
Yeah, no, this is a great thing. Well, listen, Dr. Quash, this is an amazing thing that you, CUNY, and the whole system is doing. Ralph is, you know, you're getting your flowers while you're still here, man. So I'm just happy to be a part of that and see that, people, showing you love. Um, and this is gonna be big, even years down the line, when you're no longer here, it's still gonna be the Ralph McDaniel Scholarship. So, and I'm just great to be a part of this, man. And I want to thank you guys for coming on and shooting the shit with me, you know.
Thank you.
Um, but anything else you guys want to say? Anything you got else got going on before we get out of here?
No, that's it for me. That's it for me.
Okay,
Like follow BMI. That's it.
okay. Dr. Quash, you good?
Yes, yes, sir. Thank you for the opportunity. Thank you again, Brother Ralph, and thank you, Dr.
Anytime,
Kern.
man.
Really, really appreciate it.
No, anytime. Anytime you guys have anything you want to talk about, promote, what out there, I'm the new Ralph BJ Ralph McDaniels. I'm the second coming now. Nah, but I thank you guys for coming on the show, man. We had a great time. Well, another episode in the can on Keeyzo's Corner. We out. Peace.